What is up, everybody? We are live here on Shout, a Buffalo football podcast. He is Ryan Talbot. I am Matt Parrino. Welcome in. We are brought to you by Tops Friendly Markets, your neighborhood store with more barbecues, tailgating, or maybe if you're going on a road trip to see your favorite team. Games are starting very soon. Wherever the football season finds you, make sure to stop at Tops for the best deals in town. From fresh meat to locally grown produce, Tops has everything you need and so much more for mealtime, snack time, or anytime. Tops at your table since 1962. Ryan Talbot, day 8 in the books. The Bills were in pads again. How are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great, Matt. It sounds like it was a pretty busy day out there at St. John Fisher University.
It really was. There was a lot going on. There's a lot to get into from a football perspective. I wrote over at the website, syracuse.com, newyorkupstate.com. You can read about all the different things that happen. As always, on the podcast, you get an extra couple nuggets, things that didn't make it in. And so we'll get into all that. Where do you want to start, my friend?
Well, let's start with your lead, Matt. Let's start with a rookie cornerback and going one-on-one against Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, I was thinking, obviously what happened with Jordan Poyer today is super big news. We're going to get into that shortly. Um, Suffering an elbow injury, and right now evaluation is happening. We don't really have many more details than that. I'll go over what happened and we'll talk about what it means shortly. But you know, Stefon Diggs and Kyer Elam, that's kind of been the prime time premier matchup whenever it's happened throughout training camp, whether it's been in one-on-ones or in team drills. Well, today, Christian Benford stole the show. 6th-round draft pick out of Villanova, football championship subdivision. 20 players were drafted in April's draft out of the FCS, and Benford was one of them. And he's proving early on here that he's somebody that Bills fans need to pay attention to. Leslie Frazier was asked about him today before the practice, and he said he's a guy that they were surprised more teams weren't interested in sooner, and they were able to get him in the 6th round. They were excited about him. We know what the Bills are able to do in terms of developing defensive back talent, and he just put on a show today. It was, I think I tallied at least 5 one-on-one reps in team drills, mostly in red zone, between Benford and Stefon Diggs. And Benford he really just had an explosive, awesome performance. And when you go up against an all-pro in practice, wins just mean a lot. And they mean extra for a 6th-round draft pick that, I don't think anybody was really expecting to do big things in this training camp. It's going to be like a slow roll, right? Somebody that has versatility, can play inside, can play outside. Man, he just one-on-one. There was 2 reps in particular where one was really sticky coverage, made a huge pass breakup. And you could see Stefon Diggs starting to get a little bit annoyed, probably is the best way to put it. He didn't get overly upset or anything like that, but you could tell, back to the line, let's run it again. Then a couple plays later, Josh Allen goes back to Diggs, and it was a little bit of a play that was, I think because of the coverage, Allen kind of threw it to the outside. And but you look over at Benford and Diggs and stride for stride with him. He just made a big play. And then it was like, all right, Stefon Diggs goes back to the huddle. I'm sure he said something to Josh Allen like, get me the football. It was, I think, 2 plays from the last till the practice ended, that portion of the practice. And bang, bang, double move. Absolutely lost Benford, put him in a blender. And it was like, okay, this is more like it. That was the rep that you were kind of waiting to see from Stefon Diggs. But all in all, absolutely big practice for Christian Benford.
Yeah, and we've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for Benford to kind of come in and show what he can do. You mentioned it, though. He comes from a small school, and the fact that the Bills thought he could go earlier, that kind of speaks volumes to what they saw from him on tape. But a lot of the times with small school guys, it's hard to evaluate how they're going to hold up against bigger, talent that came from bigger schools. And for the Bills themselves, they have a history of drafting players from smaller schools, Taryn Johnson, Saran Neal, and they were able to get looks at those guys back at the Reese's Senior Bowl. But when it comes to Benford, it's hard to tell how they're going to stack up. So going against Diggs today and being able to kind of go stride for stride with him, that's a huge win for him. Leslie Frazier spoke highly of him today as well. Now, it's not going to be easy to make this roster. Obviously, we've talked about some of these players that are fighting for that last spot. There's Cam Lewis, there's Benford, there's Nick McLeod. There's a lot of young guys trying to hold on for one or two spots on this team. So, Benford, he was a draft pick this year. There's a chance for him to stick on this roster, but now he needs to kind of build off of this. Really strong, though, performance if you're going one-on-one against Diggs and able to stay with him, if you're able to frustrate someone at that caliber at practice. So all in all, pretty encouraging day for Christian Benford.
Yeah, and you start to look at like the 53-man roster projection and how this potentially fits in if Christian Benford puts pressure on the Bills to make a decision. And one of the things I was thinking about today as I was kind of thinking ahead and what would that potentially look like. And if you're worried, if you're the Bills, that Cam Lewis is somebody that if you cut, you're gonna have a hard time getting him back on the roster. You probably take the chance with a 6th-round pick that somebody doesn't scoop him up and you can either get him back on your practice squad or somehow working around wherever Tre'Davious White is at. And so like right now you're looking at Tre'Davious White. I posted a couple videos on my Twitter account today of Tre'Davious White, and he's moving pretty well. He's doing a lot of agility drills. He's jumping on both feet. I mean, he's definitely making progress. Leslie Frazier said today they're excited about what the trainers have told them. But if you get to a spot and you say, man, you get to the preseason games, Trey White hasn't played yet, and you're really concerned about like rushing him back and wanting to maybe give him some runway in practice, you have him make the roster. Then you put him on like a pup list or some type of short pup list, and maybe you had to cut Cam Lewis or Christian Benford, and maybe you can kind of do one of those handshake deals that we saw a couple of years ago, what they did with Dean Marlowe, where you say, okay, Cam, we're going to cut you, but don't leave your phone because we're going to call you in a couple hours later, get you right back on the roster, get ready to go, and then worry about that problem down the line when Trey White's ready. And who knows, maybe Trey White's ready week 1, and then you have a real problem on your hands, and you just might have to risk losing them. But it's something to think about as we progress. It's one day of practice. Let's not overreact. But just thinking down the line, is somebody that they like a lot, they drafted, they invested capital in him, and versus Cam Lewis, who has been really, really good for them when he's played. He was an undrafted guy 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the handshake deals. We see a few of those every year. It feels like don't leave your phone, don't leave your hotel room because don't even try to book any airfare. You're going to be back by the next day or so. So that's one area where the Bills could do that. It could be these wide receiver spots where there's a lot of depth to. This is what happens when you have a Super Bowl caliber roster. There's going to be some really tough decisions on the back end. But when you have a savvy GM like Brandon Beane, there's always going to be one or two of these deals that you can, cut a player, bring them back, maybe give them a little extra money here or there for coming back and being a good sport about it. But yeah, Benford, it's one good day. You need a lot more of that before you go into that roster lock status. But still, it's encouraging when you're going against a player like Stefon Diggs, Matt.
Pops Mafia is in the comments. I'm pretty sure he's been at every practice of training camp. He's got comments in here every day. How did you get all these tickets, my man? And why have you not said hi to us yet? I would like to know that as well. I need to meet the famous Pops Mafia from the comment section on YouTube. Speaking of which, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate. The numbers have been absolutely eye-popping. It's really exciting. We love doing these shows this time of year. I remember the training camp series really took off, the daily practice recaps in 2020, and they've just grown exponentially each year. We love doing them. We love talking about what all this could potentially mean and how it could kind of fit once the games start and everything like that. And it's exciting. Traditionally, Bills fans get so excited about this time of year because it's the time of year where there's hope and, there's possibility. Well, with this team, there's definite hope and possibility of what this could potentially look like. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe as well. Ryan Talbot, some bad news today with Jordan Poyer.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jordan Poyer exited practice with an injury. You were there commenting on it, as were a lot of the beat reporters there today. One-on-one, not a one-on-one drill, I'm sorry, 11-on-11s, and came into contact with James Cook, went down, was immediately in some discomfort, left the field with a trainer, and then eventually was put on a cart and taken to the back. Right now, all we know is it's an elbow injury. The Bills came out and reported that, and that he needs an MRI. So we don't know the severity of it now. Bills obviously avoided a significant injury to Micah Hyde within the last few days. And obviously, the fan base and everyone else is hoping that it'll be the same for Poyer, but we're kind of awaiting word on, how severe this is. And Matt, maybe you can kind of go into more details about what had happened in the practice when that occurred.
Yeah, and so it was a running play. James Cook, bang bang. It was very like run of the mill, and nothing really stood out about the play. But all of a sudden, at the end of it, they're going thud up right now, so it's not full tackle. Whatever happened, it was immediate pain for Jordan Poyer. You saw him react immediately, came off the field. Some of the images of him on the sideline as I was kind of peering across the field, you could tell that he was in serious pain. You could see it again as he was walking off the field. And so it's an elbow injury, probably banged it somewhere. And you wonder, all right, is there maybe some hyperextension there? Maybe you start thinking about like, strains, pulls, tears. I mean, I know there's some tendons in the elbow. I'm no doctor, so I'm not going to kind of try to diagnose this, but you'll get to see it over the next couple of days. I'm sure reports will come out, and we'll get to figure what this looks like long term for the Bills as they try to kind of use these young guys that we don't really know a lot about. Jaquan Johnson was the guy that primarily played today opposite Poyer. Then Hamlin came in once Poyer got hurt because Micah Hyde wasn't participating in team drills either. So this is again going to be a lot of experience for these young safeties. And I know we don't know a lot about him, Ryan, but I thought Jaquan Johnson last season, when he went in and played for an injured, was a Poyer who missed a game. I thought he was really, really good. And it's something that it's almost like these first couple of years for Johnson, he's been so good on special teams. It's like, oh man, I kind of would like to see a little bit more on what that actually looks like. But when you got a tandem like Hyde and Poyer, there's not a lot of opportunity for that.
No, and listen, right now it's great for these young guys to get the reps out there, and you're hoping that when the regular season comes, if you're a Bills fan, you don't see Jaquan Johnson and Hamlin getting a lot of reps back there. But if it is something where they have to play, this coaching staff, especially in the secondary, they've done a really good job of coaching these players up, and I would like to think that whether it's Johnson, Hamlin, combination of the two, that they're going to be able to step in and be able to play at a high level. Will there be a drop off? Absolutely. You're talking about an all pro from 1 year ago in Jordan Poyer if this is a more serious injury. But Johnson, as you said, when he's been in the lineup, because he's had some more opportunities to play, he's made some plays. I can go back to when Sam Darnold was still on the Jets and he had an interception on a play. I think it was called back due to a penalty, but the instincts were there. You could see it in his game. He's someone that when he's had opportunities, he's made some plays on the field. So if his number gets called and he needs to play some meaningful reps, I think the secondary will be okay while Jordan Poyer recovers and hopefully gets back. Again, we don't know the severity of the injury at this time. It could be something minor. We have to await word on that.
Yeah, we will await word. And, while you do, head over to valuehomecenters.com /current-ad. And you can look at their ad this week. And going on right now, it's your last chance to stock up on summer outdoor essentials. Shop outdoor furniture, fire tables, grills, garden tools, and outdoor decor. Starting on August 7th through September 3rd, it's the end of the season clearance sale. Save $7 instantly on Valspar Integrity exterior paint and $5 on Valspar True Basics exterior self-priming paint. Value Home Centers, your hometown team. All right, Ryan, we got to talk about everybody in this chat's hometown team, the Buffalo Bills. Where do you want to go to next? Because there's a lot of other observations that we got to get into here.
There are. We've been very secondary heavy, but let's stay there a little bit longer. Talk a little bit about Taryn Johnson. He's someone that we've both said, he's so solid. He's so good. You almost feel like you don't talk about him enough. Today, you have him in your observations, Matt. So tell us a little bit about Taryn Johnson's day.
Yeah. So we keep seeing him in the comments section, right? And it's like, I don't know what to say. He's solid. There's been some matchups with McKenzie and, McKenzie's won a lot of them early on, but again, no pads. Pads changes things a little bit. The physicality gets ramped up a little bit, ratcheted up, if you will. And today, Isaiah McKenzie was so upset. He came off the field after this play and slammed his helmet, and it went into like one of the equipment. I don't know, like what are those things? It holds all of the audio equipment. It looked like just like a big rolling cart, and it just slammed into it, and it made a pretty loud thud. And you could tell Isaiah McKenzie wasn't happy about it. He's had a lot of success throughout this training camp, and today it didn't go his way on that particular play, and it was a little bit more of a quiet day. And this was his quote after practice. He said, "I probably should have either knocked down the pass from Josh Allen or tried to go get it or something of that nature, but I didn't react fast enough, and Taryn caught it. And I was just mad that he caught it, and that he was able to be in the same area as me as he caught the interception." That's what it was. An interception, Taryn Johnson on Josh Allen. And usually when you have that much time, I mean, the play developed a little bit. I mean, Taryn Johnson usually, running stride for stride with McKenzie, that's not going to go well for him just because of the top speed of McKenzie. But Johnson just flashed some crazy speed, went stride for stride, made a play on the ball. It's probably a ball that Allen shouldn't have thrown, but he made the play, and it obviously caused McKenzie to be upset. And now it's going to be, how does McKenzie respond from a bad practice, if you will? And listen, bad practice, I mean, one bad play, but how do you respond from things not going perfectly? Because teams are going to make adjustments. Guys are going to make plays against you. Now you got to come back and prove that you can make plays after that.
Yeah. And listen, this is a big year for Isaiah McKenzie. So I like that he was frustrated. They were just talking about how he's trying to get this big role in this offense as the slot receiver. And when you are a focal point of the offense, I guess is a good way of putting it, you need to be able to play defense from time to time on a ball where it's kind of a 50-50 scenario. And he wasn't able to do that today. So I like the frustration. I like the helmet slam. He didn't have a Dan Carpenter moment where it came up and bounced up and him in the face, at least. So that's a win for him today. But I like the frustration overall. And yes, in the comments, changing gears real quick, Adam Schefter did just tweet out about Jordan Poyer hyperextended his elbow. Will miss what one source describes as a few weeks, and he is expected to be back for the start of the regular season. So that's huge for the Bills, shifting back over to Jordan Poyer. They've had two scares at the safety position as of late, and now you have both of these players that look like they'll be ready for a big week one matchup against the Rams.
Yeah, that's a huge dodge bullet for the Bills. I don't know what the timeline would be on any type of tear or tendon or any situation like that, but it probably would have extended into the regular season. So if you can get him back, get that all right, you'll be in a great spot, and you'll get a lot of reps for these young guys, like we mentioned, and get to work with Micah Hyde when he gets back. It seems like he's kind of, getting geared up more and more each day. So yeah, big news.
Yeah. You can't, this time of year, anytime that an injury happens, you can't, if you're a fan, you're holding your breath, you're waiting news on this, going to the opposite side here, week one opponent, the Rams, Van Jefferson, he was a big contributor in that offense last year, about 800 yards receiving or 800 total yards, 8 touchdowns. He might not be back in time for the week one matchup against the Bills. So you're seeing this across the league. You're seeing players go down with injuries, and you never want to see it be serious. It doesn't matter who the team is, who the player is. But for the Bills, 2 key players have been injured here as of late, and it looks like both will be ready for week one, which is big. Matt, changing over to the other side of the ball, let's talk about one of your favorites, or someone that you've taken some heat on here in the comments from some fans. Let's talk a little bit about Jameson Crowder today.
Heat in this episode or in previous episodes?
What's that?
Heat in this episode or in previous episodes?
Oh, previous episodes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I was like, man, are they starting in on me already? No, I wrote about Jameson Crowder today. I thought he looked like he was moving really well. He returned to team drills. He didn't have any catches in that portion, but he had a couple plays. He might have actually had one catch, but it wasn't particularly noteworthy. But he looked really good in one-on-ones. I mean, he had a tough rep against Taryn Johnson, came back, won the next one, then had a really good rep. I believe it was Cam Lewis that he just couldn't stay with him. And so you're seeing the shiftiness, the route running kind of pop here for Jameson Crowder, his first healthy day. So now it's like, all right, how quickly can he get himself back cohesively running with, Josh Allen and that first team offense? I mean, that's been Isaiah McKenzie's role. He's talked about it today. It's like a whole new world where he's kind of the guy. And he said it today. He's going to compete with Jameson Crowder. He's going to get a chance to get in there. But now it's great to look good for one day. To, you've had all these days off. You've been able to get your body right. You feel healthy. Can you sustain that? Because if he can't stay on the field, this is all kind of like a moot point with him.
Yeah, he has to stay in the field. He has to keep having good days if he wants to compete, because we've talked about Isaiah McKenzie more than maybe any other player so far early on at camp in terms of who we've been the most impressed by. So it's going to take an incredible camp here, preseason, for Crowder to maybe surpass McKenzie early on in the year. Good to look good in these one-on-one drills, but now he's got to carry that over to the next practice, to the return of the blue and red, and into the preseason if he wants to have a legitimate chance to win that slot receiver job, Matt.
Let's stay with receivers for a moment, just because we'll just kind of knock these all out. We could just talk about the group in general. Marquez Stevenson, again, somebody that was sticking out in one-on-one drills, had a couple really good reps, a couple really good wins on the last one. Let me just be completely accurate here for you all. On the last one, he really was impressive. Double move, just completely lost Kyer Elam and was able to make a play on the ball. Immediately afterwards, it came up and his foot was bothering him. He could barely kind of walk off to the side of the end zone. And before long, the trainers kind of ran over there. He had to exit the field. He did not return to practice. The severity of that isn't known, but the injury history of Marquez Stevenson doesn't make you feel too confident about things, right? Like, how much time is he going to miss? Is that time going to be so much that he can't make enough headway? And that kind of combos with the fact that Jay Kumerow's been out for a week. He'll get back. He's tough. He'll make some noise before we get to the roster cut down days. He's done it the last 2 years, but Isaiah Hodges is having a really good training camp, Ryan. I think that this has been the moment where Isaiah Hodgins, maybe it's all coming together for him. If he can make enough plays to, whether it be in the preseason setting, if he can maybe get some run with the first team at some point, depending on, who's healthy, vet rest days maybe coming up for Steph Diggs, however that works out. There's not a lot of outside receivers. You know what I mean? I mean, after Gabe Davis and Stefon Diggs, you're looking at maybe like Khalil Shakir in kind of like a utility role. And then, Isaiah McKenzie probably will be used at some point in that role. He's been moved around before, but man, Isaiah Hodgins has a big opportunity to maybe make some noise, do some things on special teams, maybe earn that spot that a lot of people think might go to Kumerow if the Bills keep 6-7 receivers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Availability. That's what it comes down to. And Isaiah Hodgins has been available so far this year. Again, that hasn't been in his favor in the past. He's making plays. He needs to continue to do this. When it comes to Stevenson, it's unfortunate that he got hurt today. We don't know, again, the severity of it yet. Hopefully nothing too serious. But if it is something that kind of takes him out of the rest of the summer or something like that, he's going to have an uphill battle to make this roster. The Bills could obviously put him on the practice squad, stash him there, and maybe for the team, that'd be a blessing in disguise, because other teams aren't going to be able to see him in the preseason and won't be able to poach him potentially. But you wanted to see what Stevenson could do from year 1 to year 2 in the preseason. He's had some nice practices. It would have been nice to see him kind of cling on to one of those last roster spots. So this does give Hodgins, though, an opportunity, and he's kind of put his name out there a little bit in the last week, Matt.
Yeah, I was just kind of reading some stuff up on the side here. But yeah, Hodgins has had himself a great camp. He set himself up for the run here in the next couple of weeks. But again, it's on him. You can't get to a spot where you're also missing time. Like, that's going to be the most important thing. Can he stay healthy? It's been an issue for him in camps previous. So we'll see how it goes. Where do you want to go next?
Let's go into Terrell Bernard. Let's go to the linebackers a little bit.
That's a great place to go. And Terrell Bernard had himself a nice practice today. Honestly, if not for the Benford explosion, I might have featured Bernard a little bit higher in my observations. The thing that I come away from every practice on the plays that I'm able to notice Bernard is that he's so, I don't want to say elusive's not the right word, but he's really good at avoiding the chaotic areas of the field to make sure to utilize that speed. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you can have great speed, but if you're getting caught up in the traffic, what good is it? And it ends up being Bernard with two big plays today. One's a pass breakup on Tommy Sweeney. The other was a interception, a ball that was a nice pass from Josh Allen. James Cook has to make this play, gets on his pads, pops up in the air, and Bernard kind of shifting away from the play, reacts quickly, gets over, makes the catch. This is a huge day for Terrell Bernard and somebody that, day after day, brick after brick, like they say, gaining confidence and then also, getting the coaching staff to have confidence in you. John asks over on Facebook, what's the YouTube channel? You can find us by looking up Shout Buffalo Podcast on YouTube. That'll bring you to the page. It's Buffalo Bills on NY Up.
Yeah. So real quick, going to Bernard, maybe it's the instincts, Matt. And that's something that Leslie Frazier has mentioned. He just has these great instincts where he almost knows where to go as soon as the ball is snapped. And that's where you avoid those messy areas. That's where you don't get, you don't have a blocker right up on you. You're able to kind of run free and make those plays. And he seems to be someone that's doing that early on in camp and pressing this coaching staff. And that's important for him. We don't know what his role is going to look like as a rookie. Obviously, they drafted him on day 2 of the draft, late in day 2, third round. And they already have obviously Edmonds and Milano is their 1-2 punch, but he has a very similar frame to Milano. So if Milano misses any time, he could kind of step right up into that role. He's still maybe competing for that linebacker 3 role. We've talked about Tyrell Dodson and how good he's looked at times. So again, role is to be determined, but you think there's going to be some packages where they're going to have him out there, letting him use those instincts, letting him use that speed, and really kind of maybe cover, blitz, whatever the case may be. And I'm really excited to see Bernard as a rookie on the field.
I'm excited every time I walk in the door at Tops Friendly Markets. The sizzle of the grill, popping open a refreshing drink, crowds cheering for their favorite team, in the case, the Buffalo Bills, for everybody watching. These are the beautiful sounds of football season, and Tops is right there with you. From fresh meat to locally grown produce, Tops has everything you need and so much more. Tops at your barbecues since 1962. Big year for Tops Friendly Markets, Ryan Talbot. 60 years. It's
huge
cool.
Year. Yeah. And in the comments here, Tops Bakery is elite. I agree. They have a very good bakery. But Matt, speaking of sizzle, how about a little Greg Rousseau news? We've had a lot of questions about him over the last few weeks, and he sounds like he had a great practice today too.
Yeah, I mentioned it on the show yesterday. Greg Rousseau just looks really comfortable. You could see the size, the speed, the package that he's presenting against this, let's be honest, it's a beat up offensive line. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt anyway. It's practice, but also the injury situation. But man, I think Greg Rousseau, he's been explosive. He's putting guys in a bind immediately off the snap. And sometimes before, I mean, the timing is there too. I think one of the things that AJ Epinesa has been lauded for over the last couple of years is his get off, right? I've been really impressed with Greg Rousseau's get off. And one of the plays today, the get off was David Questenberry couldn't even deal with him at right tackle. I mean, he's in. Spencer Brown still not working in with the first team, and Rousseau went blazing around the outside, ends up getting what should have been a sack. The whoever had the whistle was a little bit too slow with it and didn't blow the whistle. And Allen threw a pass, but it was a sack. I mean, Rousseau stopped right in front of Allen for a good second, and then he threw it. I mean, it's a sack. And so it was a situation where Greg Rousseau is he's playing really well. And again, benefiting from being on a line with Von Miller, with Ed Oliver, two guys that we've talked about so much, being disruptive and being a lot to deal with. Again, today, Ryan Bates out, Roger Saffold out, Tommy Doyle returned, but he wasn't with the first team. So he's kind of working his way back, whatever he suffered an injury from yesterday. So you have Mitch Morse, Deion Dawkins. Those are your solid starters. Then you have Cody Ford at left guard. He was all right today. And then Bobby Hart, who I got to give a shout out, he did actually have really one good rep against Jaquan Jones. Really stood him up and allowed Allen to find Gabe Davis in the back of the end zone for a touchdown during red zone work. But this offensive line, I mean, they're down a bunch of guys. Greg Mance didn't practice today. Versatile interior lineman that could play all three spots. So they're dealing with some injuries on that offensive line. And I think that this defensive line, they're playing really well. And, Josh McCarty brings up Darrell Williams' season. You wonder if there's not another injury or two, if the Bills really put some thought into that, restructure some things, and maybe look to bring back Darrell Williams, who is going to be healthy. If he's been staying in shape, I mean, he could step in here day one, knows the offense. Probably will have to get up to speed with Cromer, but maybe some valuable depth.
Yeah, and valuable depth is something that they absolutely need right now with all the injuries kind of piling up on them. And maybe that's a reason why they didn't blow the whistle on a play like that. Maybe the Bills are saying, listen, we still need to run this offense and let Josh throw the ball. We know that the offensive line is having their struggles, and there's probably a few more sacks than they'd like to see at this point. But Rousseau specifically, you saw the work that he put in this offseason just on his frame. He looked like he was much bigger than 1 year ago in terms of the muscle mass. He's already a giant at his actual height and everything else. But, that's the beauty of going from year one to year two in the NFL. In year one, as you come in as a rookie, a lot of these guys are coming off of bowl games or coming off of the interview process, whether it's at the combine, private visits. And I know a lot of these players, these young players, they were the COVID years. It wasn't a traditional offseason either. But after 1 year in this league, you sit down with the coaches at the end of the year and they say, here's what you need to work on, A, B, C, and D, or whatever the case may be. And with Rousseau, it looked like he really put the time and stock into whatever the Bills told him to do and adding muscle onto that frame. Because with that wingspan, which I was talking about yesterday, he can create separation right off of the snap by putting his arm into an offensive lineman. And then that's when he can go to his pass rush arsenal, which is going to keep expanding year after year, especially when he's been a part of that pass rush summit for, I believe, 2 years now. I believe he was there as a rookie as well. So this is only going to benefit him. He's only going to get better and better with more reps, with all these, with a veteran like Von Miller. It's going to be really good for Rousseau. And it's nice to see him building on his summer as the weeks have gone on here at training camp.
A bunch of people watching here on YouTube, Ryan Talbot. Hit that like button. Let's get those likes up over 100. What are we at right now? I'll bring it up. I'll give you a live update. Ahead. 77. Let's go. Smash that like button. Let's get it up over 100 while we're live. If you're new to the channel, welcome. You are in the middle of our daily podcast practice reports. We'll have one of these after every single practice the Bills have during training camp. And of course, after the red-blue scrimmage game. Subscribe to the channel. You'll get notifications every time we go live. It's the best way to do it, Ryan Talbot. Let's go next. Talked about a lot of this stuff. Let's go to some other like news and notes. There was three little news and notes I kind of want to get to, some stuff that I didn't have in my article, but I saved these. Some little bit deeper stuff for the podcast guests. I think that's only fair, all the support you guys are giving us. So I want to start with Dawson Knox. Okay. Had a drop today, and it was a tough play, right? It was a bullet from Allen. It got on him really quick, and he kind of jumped up in the air. Kind of the acrobatics were there. I was going to actually write about this, and then I kind of took it out because I wanted to kind of flesh it out a little bit more and talk about it on the show. And got up in the air, ends up landing on his back. It was like a really hard fall, and he wasn't able to make the catch. And, I seem to just recall several sideline incompletions with him, whether it be in the practice setting or game setting, where it's just the confidence level isn't super high in those moments. I was just thinking about it. I was talking with Mark Gaughan from the Buffalo News. He does a great observations piece every day. You should go check that out as well. He's been covering the team for years. I mean, he's great. And we were just talking about like, what's your confidence level in Knox in those plays? It's a really tough play. And a guy not making the play, it's okay, but he's in a contract year. We're talking about what the contract's going to look like for Dawson Knox. And the really great tight ends in this league make those plays. And That's simply it. And I like Dawson Knox just as much as the next guy, but sometimes there's big time plays that, if he wants that big time contract, you got to make those big time plays. That's my only point.
Yeah. No, and it's a valid point. And we've seen some one at least wild contract extension for David Njoku, and it's a lot of money being thrown around. And if you're going to give Dawson Knox that type of deal, which I'm sure will be what his agents will use as a starting point, he needs to be someone that you can trust in all those important moments. And we have seen some drops in practices. The one from today that you were noting, it's obviously when you hit the ground hard, it's hard to hold on to those. We've seen it in NFL games where someone's hauled it in, they hit the ground and it pops up in the air and it gets intercepted, or goes for an incomplete pass. So yeah, definitely a more difficult one today, but you need to see that consistency from him. You need to see his game take that next step. You need to see fewer drops in the practice setting, because this is someone that is going to be a focal point of this offense. It's someone that Josh Allen targets a lot. And, to Knox's credit, he did make a lot of plays last year. He hauled in a lot of touchdowns. He had the best season of his career. But the drops need to drastically get cut down as these years go on. And it's not necessarily something that we've seen from him. So, there's nothing wrong with pointing that out and noting it, especially when he is in line to get a big contract.
It's not a big deal even. Like, it's not something that I'd even spend a lot of time talking about. It's just more so the contract that I think is going to get really interesting, because, man, I just thought the Browns were absolutely idiotic for that contract that they gave to Njoku. I mean, unless there's something that you're seeing in your building that you think that he's going to be unlocked, or maybe you like that combination with Deshaun Watson, who, we learned yesterday, I believe, that it's only going to be 6 games that he's suspended for. So maybe you believe in that, and there's a little bit more projection in that. And listen, you're right. Dawson Knox, he's had legitimate, tangible production in this league. And it's just he's got to take that next step now, right? You had an offense last year where at times he was the 3rd, 4th option. He's, to me, at this stage, going into a contract year in year 4, had 9 touchdowns last year. He is in pen option number 3 in this offense behind Diggs and Davis. And you just need to be reliable in that spot. I think he's going to be. He's made a lot of good plays in this training camp as well. He had a touchdown catch the other day. The back of the end zone is really good. You just want him to make more of those plays. Those plays where you look, all right, Kittle, Kelsey, you can name any other top tight ends. They're making those plays. And I think, I was ready to start really including Dawson Knox's name in, if not that tier, that next tier. Those guys in both of those tiers are making those plays.
Yeah. And again, there's nothing wrong with pointing it out. There shouldn't be any projecting for Dawson Knox. He already has one of the best quarterbacks in the league. They've been together, and you kind of know where he's at. So when he wants this big contract, which any player going into their first contract after their rookie one, they're going to want that if they've been productive. He just needs to do his part on the field and continue to put up those big stats where, as you pointed out, he is going to be target number 3, right there after Stefon Diggs and Gabe Davis.
Let's talk about this for a second. John, over on YouTube, Knox is a top 5 tight end. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to bring up a list here. We're going to do an impromptu exercise because
I can already name 3 off the top of my head that I would take in a heartbeat. And that'd obviously be the 2 that you mentioned, Mark Andrews. So there's 3 right off the bat that, and that's not a knock on Dawson Knox. When you're talking about Kelsey, you're talking about Kittle, and you're talking about Mark Andrews. Those guys are all absolute studs right out of the gate. And, I'm not talking about age either, because Kelsey's getting up there in age, but if we're talking about just single year, like what I'm thinking in 2022, those guys already come off. There's Darren Waller with the Raiders, who I really like.
You got to put Kyle Pitts above him. He had 68 for 1,000 as a rookie.
And Pitts should realistically just have a huge year this year too. You just saw the natural gifts and the talent there. I know I'm just going off the top of my head.
There's 5 right there.
There's 5 right there. Sure.
And I think that there's got to be some consideration for a TJ Hawkinson, who I think to this point has just done more that and not with, look at the quarterbacks he's played with. I mean, he had Stafford early on, which is, but I think he downgraded considerably last year, and he put up a comparable season to Knox. It ended up being 12 games, almost 600 yards, so about the same. Not as many touchdowns, obviously, but he played in a much lesser offense with a much lesser quarterback. So I think he's in the conversation. That's a question. I was on a podcast earlier this offseason. That question was put to me. What would you take, this guy or Dawson Knox? And I took Knox over almost any of them. Obviously, the elite guys, those three that you mentioned, those weren't the names, but Dallas Goedert was an interesting one. I think I'd take Knox over him, but it's close. Hawkinson, and I'd probably take Dawson Knox over him, but again, it's close. I just don't think it's as much of a slam dunk as that comment made it out seem. No hate towards John. He's one of our regulars. We love you. A good conversation nonetheless.
Yeah, no, a great talking point. And you're right. Hawkinson's someone that you need to mention. Mike Gesicki is someone that I'm really high on. I think that he's a great tight end. So yeah, I mean, the list goes on and on. There's a lot of really good tight ends in this league right now. But Knox has the skill set and the ability to be in that top 10 conversation. No doubt about it.
Firas over on YouTube, Bills Mafia from Dubai. Welcome
That's
into
awesome.
the show. That's awesome, man. A lot of miles away. Big Bills fans everywhere. Very good. Let's get to a couple more notes, and two that were in my observations, one that wasn't, and then we're gonna get out of here. I'll go with the one that wasn't first because I'll remember the ones that were in there. Gabe Davis, man. I put out a video today, and head over to my Twitter page. If you don't already follow me there, I put out a lot of videos, especially this time of year. And I put out a little like pre-practice, like individual portion warm up, and it was Gabriel Davis and Stefon Diggs, and Chad Hall puts on the MMA gloves and just starts throwing jabs. And the whole drill is these guys just pop, 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 kind of like working on their hand placement so they don't get jabbed off the line. And you look at Gabriel Davis, man, and dude is just, I mean, the best way to say it is just he's thick, right? Like that's what the kids say these days. He's just absolutely, you could tell that he put on the muscle. He's winning in every single way on the field. He's almost, too much to deal with in individual stuff. I mentioned Hodges having a great camp. Multiply that by 10 for what Gabe Davis is doing. I think he's poised to just hit the ground running. Brian says Twitter suspended some of you. Doesn't everybody have like 10 burner accounts? Funny enough, I've been in the media game now for years. I don't have any burner accounts. Do you have any burner accounts?
No.
Do you have any accounts that you just track other things?
Nope.
No, me either. And
I don't.
I always kind of mean to, because sometimes Twitter can devolve into just cesspool of debauchery. But and so sometimes it might be good to have the experience away from like all the things that I see right now. Maybe pick a different thing that you could see a timeline to see. But I've never done it. But I do know a lot of people do have burner accounts. You could just start a new Twitter account tomorrow, and there you go.
There you go. Yeah, Elliot and who else said it? I saw it in here. Thick with at least 2 or 3 C's, maybe even 4 for Gabe Davis. He's looking very strong, and I'm not comparing him to Stefon Diggs because we know what Diggs. He has a long track record of history in this league in terms of production. But he's gotten to that point where we almost don't talk about Gabe Davis enough right now, just because he's been so solid every day in practice. You know what you're going to get from him. He's just gotten better year after year, and I think you're right. He is in for a huge breakout year this year. Next observation.
A little love for the fullback. Fullbacks are people too, right?
That's right.
And they deserve some love every once in a while. Reggie Gilliam, man. I deserve major demerits for keeping him off my 53-man roster in May. I don't really know what I was thinking. My best guess on that is that I either was thinking through a scenario where a handshake deal thing, but I really do think it was just an omission by accident, because I'll tell you right now, slam dunk city. The dude is so involved in everything that they do, the versatility to play fullback and tight end, his hands. He had a touchdown catch today. The blocking, everything about Reggie Gilliam just screams going to be on the roster. And he had another good practice today.
Yeah, listen, fullback, hybrid type of tight end if you need him in a pinch, really good on special teams. Checks a lot of the boxes of what this coaching staff historically looks for in terms of versatility, ability to help in other areas. So no reason to believe that he won't be part of this roster in 2022. I think that he hasn't been utilized a lot in this offense. He's made some catches. They haven't gone for any big gains off the top of my head in regular season games, but he is someone that I think can create mismatches on the field, given the right opportunity, given the right look. So someone I'm excited to watch this year. I agree with you, though, roster lock.
All right. Last one here for you. It is Elijah Griffin. We've talked a lot about Nick McLeod. It's been pretty quiet for OG, but he delivered a big play today. Had a sack of Matt Barkley beating Luke Tenuta, who, listen, I mean, you got a corner blitzing off the side like that. It's going to be tough to react, and he just couldn't get over there quick enough. So Elijah Griffin, a little shout out for him. Had a really nice couple plays today. Specifically that sack. All right, I'm going to give you the final word, Ryan. What do you got for us?
Final word, Bills Mafia. Can't wait to see many of you out there at the return of the blue and red. I know that there's still one more practice in Rochester before that, but that's the next
There's
time.
two more practices, Ryan. There's two more.
Two more. Huh? Oh, there's one tomorrow.
And
tomorrow's
Thursday.
not open to the public though. So
close
for
the
like
public,
which
means Shout is going to be must-see TV tomorrow.
Can't wait. Cannot wait. So, so looking forward to seeing the fan base out there, though. I think that'll be a good time as always.
You know, it's a good time, Ryan Talbot. You know, from your child's first birthday party to your holiday feast, Sunday football, backyard barbecues, and every meal in between, Tops Friendly Markets is proud to have been at your table for the past 60 years and looks forward to 60 more. Tops at your table since 1962. That'll do it for us. He's Ryan Talbot. I am Matt Parrino. This is the Shout Buffalo Football Podcast. Smash that like button before you get out of here. Subscribe as well. Make sure you subscribe over on the audio platform, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple. The Camp Diary series will be starting later this week. I can't wait for it. Take care, everybody.